Let us explore something that's been making waves in the tech world: large language models, or LLMs. We'll break down what they are, how APIs work, how to serve an LLM using FastAPI and Python, and finally, how to deploy it using Docker on AWS EC2. So, buckle up and let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Suraj. Welcome to DevOps Decode. First up, let's talk about large language models or LLMs. Think of LLMs as a super smart language system. They are like the brains behind chatbots, language translation tools, and even content generators. They are trained on massive amounts of text data to understand and generate human like text. Imagine having a conversation with a robot that can chat about almost anything. That's the magic of LLM. Example of LLMs: OpenAI ChatGPT, Meta Llama, Microsoft V3, etc. So, when you are querying ChatGPT, you are actually hitting the API from OpenAI, which fetches the result from OpenAI LLM. Here, ChatGPT is just an application which interacts with user. Next, let us demystify APIs or application programming interfaces. Let's say if LLMs are the brains, then APIs are like the nerves that let the brain communicate with other systems. An API is a set of rules and protocols that allow different software applications to talk to each other. So if you want your app to use an LLM, you would use an API to send and receive data from the model. It's like sending a request to a restaurant, and the API is the waiter who takes your order and brings back the food. Now let's dive into serving an LLM using FastAPI and Python. So what's FastAPI? FastAPI is a modern, fast web framework for building APIs with Python. It's perfect for creating endpoints that your LLM can interact with. Let me open my editor and write an application in Python. Let's say you have an LLM that you want to expose its functionality through an API. For demonstration purpose, we will use OpenAI LLM. Let us start by importing necessary modules. Set up the environment variable OpenAPI key. You can download your key by signing up in the OpenAI website. We will now initialize client and initialize FastAPI client. We will now create a class with Pydantic base model. Pydantic is a Python library used for data validation and settings management. It provides data validation and parsing through Python type annotations, which helps ensure that data your application receives and processes is in the correct format. Now let us create a Python function translate text which will accept input string. Let us define the model. We will use GPT-4 or mini model. There are many models in OpenAI website. You can check and choose which suits best for you. We will give role system and role user input to this conversational model. Here we are telling the model to remember the context of the query and that you are a translator who translates text from English to French and returns translated text and take the input string from the user to translate. We will now return the content generated by LLM. Let's create our REST API. Here translate will be outpost endpoint. Let us create async function translate. Write the code block in exception handling block and call the translate text function with our input string. And return the translated text. We will save this piece of code Our FastAPI application is ready, which is invoking LLM API to return translated text to the user. Now, let us talk about deploying our FastAPI app with Docker on AWS EC2. Docker packages your application and all its dependencies into a container, which makes it super easy to deploy anywhere. We will deploy this container to AWS EC2. We can connect to our application with the public IP of the EC2 instance, which is nothing but virtual machine provided by AWS. Stay tuned if you want to learn more about AWS services and Docker. Let's dive into the deployment process. Let us create a Docker file which will help us to package our application files and install required modules into our container. In the Docker file, let us use a Python image to start with. We will use Python 3.9 image from the Docker Hub. Set up the work directory as /app. Copy our application into the container directory. Run pip install packages. Expose 8000 port to outside container. Now we will write command to start our FastAPI server. Now that we have created all the necessary files to deploy our application to server, we will copy all our files into the EC2 instance. You will need to create your AWS key to perform SSH connection into your EC2 instance. If you want to learn more about creating and setting up EC2 instance, consider subscribing to our channel. Here we have all our files copied in the home directory of our EC2 user. Run the command to create Docker image out of the Docker file we created. So here Docker build will be the command. Let us now run the Docker container using the created image. Now let's try to hit the post endpoint and see if we can get the output from the server. We have got the output from the server. Since this account don't have enough credits, we don't see the translated text. You can create new account and get $5 credit, which will be more than enough to get started with the OpenAI LLM. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more tech insights. Got questions or topics you want us to cover? Drop them in the comment below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.